I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all right, all right. Welcome, all of my favorite garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people, to the Let's Get Growing show right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today. And today we've got a really great show for you. It is our Garden Roundtable edition of the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show. And today we have joining with us Josh Gardens from the Plant Techie and Deserae from Gardening with Dezz today for our roundtable. So stay tuned here for a great fun gardening conversation with our two great guests that we have here today. And definitely, if you are here joining with us right now, remember to click that like button, hit the thumbs up, as well as subscribe. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that bell notification too, so you can be notified of all of our upcoming live streams and videos. Definitely also share with all your garden friends. Let them know about what we've got growing on here, the Let's Get Growing show on the Urban Gardener channel. I really appreciate all of your sharing out there and helping people find our really great show that we have here each and every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern, and all of our great guests that we have each and every week. You don't want to miss out with those conversations. And big, huge shout out to all of you who are joining us here on the replay. It's great to have you here joining with us on your time. I know it's everybody wants to be able to make it here for the live show and be a part of the live chat, but some of you don't have the time, and we really appreciate you taking your time throughout the week and into the future for our replay of this show. So if you are watching the replay, definitely jump down into our comment section below. Let me know you were here. And let me know what you got growing on. If you got any questions, any comments, or anything like that, or even if you just want to say hi. I love hearing from all of you out there. I love hearing your input about our show. So definitely be sure to get down into the comments section below. And if you are here joining with us live, definitely, if you have any questions or comments, join in with our chat and drop those questions in. If you do have any questions, though, for me or any of our guests that we have here today, try to put them into big, bold capital letters, all caps, and that way I'll be able to see and tell them apart from all of the rest of the conversation happening in the chat. And love to see your questions. So definitely drop some questions in there so we can throw those out there at our guests here as we're having our fun Sunday gardening roundtable here in just a little bit. Also, too, be sure to check out all of our links that we have down in the description too. In the description, we've got links for our channel, all sorts of different things, our Facebook group, Instagram, all that sort of stuff. We've got great links down there for that. But also, really, the more important links that are in our description below are the links to our guests and their channels and their social media and all of that. So definitely help us continue the growing our community. That's what we're all about, growing community through gardening right here on the Urban Gardener channel, the Let's Get Growing show. And that's what we're all about. I am such a huge fan of all of the people within the gardening community who make and create some of this just awesome gardening content out there. And it's so awesome that we get to have them on our show and that they take their time out to be with us. So we want to pay them back by, getting down there in those description, like I said, and clicking those links to their channels, their social media, and following along with them. And also, one of the things that you can do, though, too, for me, is go to one of their more recent videos, one of their more recent reels or posts or whatever it is that you can find through the links below, and leave them a comment and let them know that you saw them right here on the Let's Get Growing show. And yeah, let's just share that garden community love out there and spread it out, spread it about, and make sure that we're acknowledging all of these just wonderful people who are spending their time with us here each and every weekend. Like I said, every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. So excellent, excellent. We've got a great day ahead for you, as I mentioned, for our discussion here in just a little bit. But also, like I said, we're here every Saturday and Sunday. And yesterday on our Saturday show, we were featuring a really wonderful, awesome conversation with Marcus Bridgewater from Garden Marcus. Marcus spent some time with us yesterday to talk all about different things that he's been doing in kind of garden. I call him a garden inspirationalist. Just an inspiring person through the content that he creates, his videos, and again, social media and certain things like that. But he's also written some really wonderful books about growing, gardening, our connection with nature, and all of that sort of stuff. And we just had a really great conversation yesterday. If you didn't get the chance to check that out, you'll want to go back and check out that show for sure. We also got to meet up again on our Are You Following Me segment with Joe Kozlowski from Garden State Gardener. It's good to see Joe, and Joe is back on the show as he hasn't been doing too much. He's had some issues. His son needed surgery and things like that, so he had to pull back away for a while. He's been jumping back into it here just recently, so I thought it would be really great to have him on the show, reintroduce him to everybody, and give everybody a chance to go check him out and what he's got growing on over there at Garden State Gardener. And also they have a channel called Grow Big TV as well too, where they do some fun interviews with other garden creators and all of that as well too. So definitely go back yesterday and check out that show. It was a really, really great show. And also, for those of you who watch our Sunday edition of Let's Get Growing, I hope you all had the opportunity to check out last Sunday's show. Last Sunday on the show, we had the pleasure of having back with us again Mark Valencia from just the huge gardening channel, Self-Sufficient Me, and our good friend Nate Murray and his awesome channel, Garden Like a Viking. These two guys were just really awesome. Such a great conversation we had last week. I wish I had more time. Last Sunday was so busy. I had such a busy day for myself on Sunday, but we'll hopefully get these guys back again soon, whether together or with others or whoever that we can set up in the future. But again, I just really, really appreciate those guys for taking their time for sure to come and join with us here and have such a great conversation like they did. So if you missed out on last Sunday, you'll definitely want to go back and check out that conversation. It was just really awesome, really amazing. And again, too, I'm sure we're going to have a really awesome and amazing conversation as well today. We've got some great guests coming up here in just a little bit. And again, just so glad to see all of you here joining with us for our conversation today. So let's jump in the chat and see who we got joining with us. And of course, right at the top here, let's make sure we say hello and thank Jay Dixon, our conversation and chat facilitator. Good day from Jay from the Huron County, Midwestern Ontario, Canada. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for doing all that you do to help keep our conversation moving in the chat, as well as putting in all of these great links and different things that come up during our conversation. Jay is right on it, making sure that we're getting some links to more information or to other channels and all of that too. If you do have a channel, definitely let us know in the chat as well too. Jay will make sure that she gets a link put into the chat there so that everybody can go and check out your channels as well too, because like I said, not only with our guests that we have here, but all of you who join us in the chat with all of your channels and what you're doing out there too. We really like to, again, spread the garden community love here through the Let's Get Growing show. So again, thank you, Jay, for all that you do for us there. And if you do have a channel, definitely let us know. And of course, our moderator, Adam Burley, joining with us here, right from down the road. Adam lives right down the road from me, and great to have him here joining with us here. And let's see, what do we got? Oh, right on. We've got Bettina, what is it? Wittenmeyer joining us from rainy Eastern Ontario. Awesome. That's great to see you. Thank you so much for spending your time here and joining with us today. And of course, we got to say hi to Rick, who's always up nice and bright and early, and also in the future as well. Like I like to always say, Rick's from Australia, so he's up bright and early to be with us here on Let's Get Growing. And also, again, it's Sunday for us, it's Monday for him. So again, joining us from the future. Thanks again, Rick, for being here. It's always great to see you. We got Mill Creek Market joining with us. Thank you, Mill Creek. So awesome to see you back with us again today. Right on, right on. Let's see here. Janet Potter joining in on the conversation. Let's see. Janet says, good morning, everyone. As I was checking my cucumbers, I noticed 3 potato plants growing in the same pot. I transplanted the potatoes to another pot, praying for 2 successful vegetables. Yeah. Again, did you grow some potatoes in that pot before and then maybe left a couple of behind and they're just kind of sprouting up some new volunteers maybe? Because that happens to me all the time in all of the spaces that I grow potatoes in. There's always those little tiny ones that kind of get left behind, and then they'll sprout out and create new plants and grow new potatoes as well for you as well. So again, one of those fun kind of volunteers that we get in our garden space. Right on, right on. Let's see here. Again, we've got right. Make sure we're seeing everybody here for sure. Awesome. Great to have all of you here. And again, thank you all so much for spending your time here with us this Sunday for our show. And also too, one of the things that we're really fortunate about here on our show, and especially the Sunday edition of our show, is I have a good friend, my good friend, Mark Roche Colbert, who joins with us on Sundays for his segment that we call In the Garden.
Hey guys, welcome. I'm Mark Boucher Colbert, and you're in the garden with NBC. You're actually in my basement grow room. Kind of looks like a basement grow room. This is where I do all my winter growing. Some years ago, I had some lights set up, as you can see. I used to have fluorescents, now I have some LED lights. But I had the lights set up to grow transplants for the spring and into the summer. And I would usually shut the lights off sometime around, August or September, whenever I was done growing out my transplants for the year. And they would sit quiet all winter long. And one year I thought, well, why am I not trying to grow some microgreens and some baby stuff during the winter? And so, sure enough, the lights now stay on all year. I actually love this space in the winter. The quality of light from these LEDs, this is a high-end LED made by a company called Fluence, and it's so beautiful, the beautiful white light. It gives me a real place of refuge during the winter, during the gray winters of Portland. Portland can be pretty depressing place to be in the winter. There's not much sun to be had. So this is a great space to come down to and just be bathed in growing things. As you can see in the background, I've started to collect a whole bunch of house plants too. There's all these hangers-on, these winter hangers-on that come in here to hang out, and they can take a little bit more light, a distant light. So that's kind of fun too. Starting to collect a lot more house plants. But what I really want to tell you is I want to show you some of the things that I'm harvesting right now from the grow room. Because production, it's, into November, temperatures are starting to get much colder, and production is really slowing down outside. Pretty soon, only certain hardy crops. We haven't really had a hard freeze here, but pretty soon certain hardy crops are going to be the only things that are out there. The Brussels sprouts, the kales, some of the underground root crops and such. But I love the tender greens, and I love a great supply of them. And so look what I've got going here. This is some troutback lettuce, and I'm doing 2 things with this right now. I'm growing it just like this to snip, which I'm going to do right now. I've got a bowl and some scissors, so let's just cut that, get the tops off of that for a salad tonight. That's going to be delish. Right, and then all the rest, the soil and the kind of tops, go into my worm compost. So that just cycles around for use out in the garden later on. Put that down here. And then what else do we have? Well, let me show you. I took some of those lettuce and I potted them up as well for another experiment, and I'm getting great growth off of that. These are actually the same planting date. It's just that there's about 60 in here and there's only 2 in here. So I'm growing these on a little further and trying to get some little baby heads. The growth looks really good so far. I don't see a lot of tip burn. The leaves look excellent. There's no browning. So I'm really, really excited about that. Again, this is the Troutback lettuce, Forellenschluss, I think it's called in German. Anyway, that is exciting. So definitely growing some lettuce in the grow room and keeping that going. But that's not all. There's a whole world of microgreens that you can grow. And many of these microgreens, especially in the mustard family, the Brassicaceae, are really super nutritious at the microgreen stage. The nutrients are much more concentrated. So let's have a look at that. I use these little green trays. They're like 5 by 5 by 2.5 or 3 inches tall. You can use anything, any standard black plastic pots, like something like that is great. That's like a 3 by 3 black plastic pot. Whatever you got, you can use some old recycled plastic containers, like berry containers and such. Anyway, let's check this out. Wow, look at those microgreens. These are fractal frills kale. This is some of my own seed, my homegrown seed, and I wanted to test the viability. That's one thing that this microgreens grow room winter growing is great for. If you have old seed or you have seed that's left over even from this season, and you know as well as I do that it's hard to keep seed really viable. You have to take some precautions and some care. And certain kinds of seed, like lettuce, just has a naturally short lifespan. In other words, no matter how well you care for it, it's going to be kaput within a year or 2 at least. So you don't have too much time. So if you have a lot of lettuce, if you buy in bigger quantities like this is a botanical interest mesclun pack. It's actually new. I just bought it. But let's say you had a larger package of lettuce. You can use it to grow microgreens and just finish out your seed stock. And that way, you order fresh next year, you know you're going to have good success with your direct seeding and your transplanting stuff. You don't have to worry about the viability so much. You're just growing and eating everything in the year that you order it. So anyway, this is some really cool kale called fractal frills. Obviously, you can't see the complex patterning at this stage, but this is going to be delicious in salad tonight. So I'm going to snip this right now too into the salad bowl right now. And I'm just taking the top, these are pretty stemmy, so I'm just going to take the top and I'll let the worms have the microgreen stems. They'll have fun with that while I enjoy the delicious tops. Microgreens, I grew microgreens commercially for about 5 years, up until the pandemic started, and that was really satisfying. That's partly how I got all this equipment. Now, if you can't, some of these lights, the quality of light really does matter, and some of these lights are very expensive. I recommend sun blazers. Also, they're a fluorescent tube that's full spectrum, and that has produced very well for me too, and it's a much more reasonable entry point than these. But definitely check out something on the high end too if you're interested. For a long-term investment. Sometimes you can get them used, and that's a great way to go. They have a really long lifespan, so there's not much diminishment if they haven't been used too many years. All right, so let's see what's going in the salad bowl right now. We have some baby lettuce, and we have some fractal frills, kale. Here's some cilantro. I love keeping cilantro in stock all year long, and in the winter, it's super easy to grow with your microgreen system here. I'm going to let this leaf out just a little bit more. It's just barely starting to leaf out, so I'm not going to take too much of it, or not much at all. We'll let that keep growing. I have some broccoli rabe here, and as you may know, rabe, of course, it can be eaten at this stage like a microgreen, but it's often valued for baby leaves. So I'm going to take a strip down the middle out from microgreens, and I'm going to let the other stuff keep growing. And at this stage, I could even give it a light fertilization with like a fish emulsion or something. Now, I'll leave it to you if you're doing indoor growing, and if it's close to your living quarters, you might not want to be using fish emulsion. You might have to find some other solution. But a little nutrient boost at this point would help it get a little further on in its cycle. Let me talk about potting soil too. I haven't said anything about potting soil. I'm very excited this year to be trialing a new product that is peat moss free. It's actually called pit moss, and it is recycled paper and cardboard fiber, composted pine bark, compost, and composted poultry waste products. I am liking this stuff quite a bit. It seems to be growing things very well. I'm trying it with I do a lot of potting soil experiments during the winter as well. So I'm doing it with a lot of, I'm trying it just on its own and with fertilizers. I'm sure I'll have more to say on that. And if you're not following me at Urban Ag Solutions on Instagram, why don't you go and do that, because that's where I report a lot of these microgreens findings. In fact, I usually do something called Microgreens U during the winter, the Microgreens University. So it's just my ramblings about what I'm learning about microgreens and how to grow more food indoors. Anyway, this is really cool. Pit moss avoids the use of a lot of peat, right? Which according to many sources is non-sustainable. It certainly takes a long time to make a peat bog, and they're not renewing themselves very quickly. They are sensitive and fragile ecosystems. So when we can avoid doing that, let's go with something sustainable. It's a little more costly, but as people jump in on this, the price is going to go down. What else do I want to say? Well, I've certainly got some basil, right? Here's some basil. Basil I love to grow. I'm also equipped with seeds here, so I'm going to be growing some more baby basil. So that's coming up. And, oh, what else? Well, it wouldn't be complete without showing you the dwarf gray sugar pea shoots. I grow these in flats that I made myself from a half aluminum baking sheet. There's a perforated one that nests in a solid one. Then I built these little side walls just out of recycled fence boards. But these pea shoots, again, I'm going to take the top 2 to 3 inches of shoot for salads, for things that are tender. Look at that go. It kind of looks like I'm a saintly person, huh? Yeah. Let's hope. Maybe just being around plants makes you holy and saintly, right? That's kind of the hope, right? The good energy of the plant gets transferred to us. I think that's true. Anyway, eating a lot of pea shoots will make you good and holy and saintly too. It'll make you your best self. This is just healthy food. This is the kind of green, healthy food I think we should all be eating. And it's easier than you think. If you dedicate a little bit of time, a little bit of money, you're spending the money anyway on produce somewhere. You're trying to eat, right, and survive and nourish yourself. So why not invest a little bit more? I've often said every house should have a grow room. It should be somewhere in the middle of the house where the extra light could come through some kind of a glass wall or those glass brick kind of things and provide light for the house. We already heat our houses, so the grow room is at the correct temperature to grow things. So it's a win-win. You don't have to provide any extra heating as in an outdoor greenhouse. You're already heating the space. All you need is the light. So I'm just, as much as I miss I'm going to put this down, it's heavy. As much as I miss the summer growing season and all the joys of being outside with my hands in the dirt in the garden, wearing shorts and a t-shirt, being at my ease out of doors, as much as I rue the coming of the gloom, the cold, the constant rain, I do take a great amount of excitement at retreating to my little grow space and just enjoying all the things that I can grow in here, things that I'm keeping alive for next season, like some succulents that I bring in. I'm even trying some coleus this year. And as I said, a bunch of houseplants are just kind of taking refuge down here. But then all the food that I can grow. So I encourage you, look around your house. There's lots of small lighting units. You could have a really beautiful, tiny little unit in your kitchen and just be growing 3 or 4 pots of herbs, maybe a little bit of microgreens, little mustards, whatever it is, you're going to take joy in it. It is going to be a source of joy and refreshment to you. It's going to be green things. They're beautiful. They're great to relate to. I encourage you to try it. I hope you do. And I know we'll be talking more from this space as the season goes on. But for now, I'm wishing you a great end of the garden season. And maybe it doesn't have to end, right? With a certain amount of gear and equipment, you can keep it going and you can be nourishing yourself all year long. So we'll see you next time in the garden with MBC.
All right. Big thanks to our good friend Mark Roche Colbert with his In the Garden segment there in his in-house grow room, growing all those great microgreens. I'm just actually gearing up to get my plant station and lights all set, getting going for my winter season of microgreens growing and all that. So I'll have to show that to you all soon as we get that set up here in the next in this next week. One of the things I am working on in the garden too was mentioned and talked about here during that segment. Jay was talking about just managed to sneak in my autumn garlic and fall potatoes, a bonus to harvest 10 pounds of potatoes before frost. And oh man, I'm telling you, I had a little potato patch out there in our alleyway garden that I grew some potatoes, and I only set a few in there, and I was just really surprised. I got quite a bit, and I'm still kind of trying to work through some of those potatoes right now that we harvested not too long ago. I think it was just a couple of weeks back that we got those out of the ground. And then Latina was saying that we just planted our 14 different varieties on Friday, 272 cloves in less than an hour. Wow, that's getting to work right there for sure. I am planning now too. Actually, it's going to be this week. I'm waiting for my friend to get back. We got a big like 20-foot by 40-foot plots, a couple of those different plots in his front yard that we grow out of, and it is again garlic planting time. Maybe I could have got to it this last week or something. We've got kind of a pretty warm fall so far, so our garlic's gonna be just fine getting in this week. But that's our big thing we're trying to get done this week is make sure we get the garlic going and all of that. So yeah, I want to see, make sure here we're catching up with everybody. It looks like we've got Jersey Girl joining in with us today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining with us. Right on. Excellent. And Adam says, I keep forgetting to get my microgreens going. Yeah. It's again too. It's a part of that as kind of Mark was talking about in that segment is kind of that change of seasons. So is again with a kind of a late warm fall, a lot of things still growing and going on out in the garden space. I'm kind of late to the transition a little bit myself too when it comes to that sort of stuff. I'd probably usually already have the microgreen station all going and growing and all of that. But again, this is all a part of my goals this week for sure, is to get that all set up and growing for sure. All right. Let's see here. Sam joining with us. Thank you for joining with us. Great to see you back here on the show. Awesome to have you here. Right on, everybody. Thanks again for taking the time to be here today. And we'll be right back here in just a moment with our really fun garden roundtable. Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. All right, everybody. One of the great things about adding on this Sunday edition to our show this year is the ability to be able to invite back all of these really great guests that we've had on previous shows so that we can kind of continue the conversation with each other. And so let's get started with this week's Garden Roundtable. All right. So let's welcome to the show Josh Gardens from the Plant Techie and Deserae from Gardening with Dezz. Thanks for joining with us here today. Great to have you all here.
Yes, thank you for having us back.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, definitely. And again, like I was saying, it's really great to be able to kind of have these fun little garden roundtables that we added on to the show so that we could bring back some really great conversations that we got to have previously on the show. So again, it's great to have both of you here with us again. And let's just get started with everything here. What I'll do is I'll give each of you just a minute or two to kind of introduce yourself to everybody, tell everybody about what you've got growing on there with your different channels and all of that. And again, let's start right there with Dezz. How about you?
Well, hello everyone. I'm Dezz of Gardening with Dezz, and I have been a content creator on the internet for about, going on 5 years now, I guess. And I talk a lot about pollinator gardening and getting back to nature in your own urban backyard, about how to support your local environment and make an impact locally. I am active in my local Master Gardener group here in Travis County, and I get to do a lot of outreach with gardeners in the area. And I just have a great time trying to inspire others to get out and grow. So that's what I do.
Excellent. Awesome. So Master Gardener then too, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Love it. All right, Josh, how about you? What you got going?
Well, I'm studying to become Dezz. I wore my pollinator shirt today.
Yes.
I've got some pollinator trivia. I'm actually studying to become a master gardener. My exam is next week.
Yeah.
So
excellent.
Just looking up to Dezz here. But I've been growing fruit trees. Fruit trees is really my thing. I've been doing that for, 10 years. I got hundreds planted and really just started getting into social media a year ago. And still trying to find my voice, figure out what I do. I'm called the Plant Techie because I'm actually like an IT guy. So I needed to get outside to not look at computers all day. And but I just really want to inspire everybody to grow, to try something new, fail, try again, fail, try again, because that's what I did for 10 years. So I'm just here having fun and meeting lots of new people like y'all. So it's been great.
Yeah, it's great. Again, too, being newer to the content creation and all of that, that's really, really kind of fun to see you getting in and jumping in and being a part of the community. And it's something I like to talk about a lot on the show, and especially what our show really is all about is, as it says right at the top of the screen there, growing community through gardening. So it's always great to see new gardeners and new people out there actually getting in front of the camera and showing people what you're doing in your gardening journey. So it's been really actually fun following along with you, what you do there, Josh. And I think you do such a great job. Your reels are really wonderful.
Thanks.
Yeah. And same for you, Deserae. I really, again, too, one of the things I love about watching the reels and the things that you put out there is your love for pollinators and the little critters we have in our garden. There's not very many people who really take a focus and pay attention to what's, those, just mass variety of things that are really, really important to what we're doing in the garden space.
Oh gosh, yes. I feel like as gardeners, a lot of times people start out so in fear of spiders and bees and butterflies, even because oh, what are all these little caterpillars on my plant just eating everything, and then they take like the kind of inherited through our culture just as people approach of just killing it all. And once you start to garden more, you get to understand the relationship between pests and the beneficial insects in your garden and how wonderful they are. And so it's my mission to inspire other people to see them the same way. So Yeah, I
Yeah.
love to do that. If there's one thing I'm going to talk about, it's bugs and the occasional squirrel
Right.
and possums and lizards and whatever else I find in my yard. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, and
yeah.
again, it's really kind of one of those things that took me a while myself too. Is I was, and I remember we talked about this when you were on the show last time. Was that I was one of those kids who just a bee would fly around me and I'd go running. I'd be flailing and kids, oh my God,
Hmm.
what's going on? So it was really, in the early part of my garden journey that I started to really kind of learn from others and figure out how important a lot of these these critters are to what we're doing and what we're growing. So I had to
Hmm.
turn my fear into a fascination to just kind of step back from it a little bit and kind of watch what they're doing and see what the what they're contributing to the garden space. And at that point it started to learn to become a lot more comfortable with it, because that's one of the things you hear a lot from a lot of newer gardeners. They get into it for growing plants and the growing of things and all of that, but then have to kind of come to the realization that there's a lot of these other aspects of it too, and these pollinators and other bugs and spiders and all sorts of different things are really kind of a
Totally.
huge part of it too.
Yeah. I mean, if something's not eating your garden, it's not a part of the ecosystem,
Yeah,
period. And your
exactly.
garden doesn't exist outside of the environment it actually exists in. And so you have to really, it's almost like getting over yourself in a way in your garden, because you have to like get over your fear of the unknown out there, so
Hmm.
that way you can understand that, hey, I really do enjoy this plant, but
Yeah,
also it's outside and I can't enjoy it if it's not outside and it's going to be food for something,
yeah.
you know? I mean, like the live oaks here that we have in Austin, Texas, a lot of people don't realize that it's a home to up to 400 different types of pollinators.
Oh
So,
yeah.
yeah. And so when you even start to think about just your oak tree out in the front yard, and realize that something is eating your oak tree and it's part of their life cycle and it exists, they cohabitate together,
Hmm.
then you start to really see your garden in a new way. And to Josh's point, fail and fail and fail and learn and learn and learn,
Yeah.
because your garden is your experiment. You should be passionate about your experiment and be a constant student of your garden.
Constant. It's a never ending learning process, and we've touched on
Mm.
that many times with even some of the more experienced gardeners who we have on the show. Is that I've got like Gardener Scott will come on the show, and he's got 40 plus years of gardening experience, and he'll tell you himself that it's just always learning. Even
Mhm.
every single season he's always learning something new. And I guess we can say that if you're not learning something, you're not gardening.
Yes,
That's a
totally.
good way to put it. Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
going through this master gardener class. I mean, my mind has just been blown
Blown.
because
Wow. Yeah.
they really go through all the insects and all the pests, and I'm learning, I mean, all kinds of things, names, and now I see them, I'm like, oh, that's an assassin bug. Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
one of the cool things was carpenter bees. Like he went to go
Yeah.
pick one up. I was like, what are you doing? Don't pick it up. He's like, oh, well, this one's a male and it doesn't have a stinger. And he held it up, and we were all backing up, and
Yeah, 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 exactly. I had that experience actually just recently. I went to go visit our Southern Oregon Beekeepers Association.
Oh,
So I
cool.
went to go for my first time, put on a bee suit, get out
Oh,
around all
awesome.
these different beehives and everything. And
Oh,
that's what I learned about the what are they? The drone bees
yes.
for honeybees. They don't have stingers either. You could have them right on your hand and all of that. And I was the same way. Like, are you sure? Are you sure?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I had some hives in my backyard during the pandemic, actually. And unfortunately, we had to send those hives off somewhere else because
Oh,
I have a boxer and he is anaphylactic allergic and I
oh
didn't
no.
know. And the guard bees can be pretty serious. They will boop you from 50 feet away. They're gonna just keep knocking themselves into you until
Yeah.
you walk away or until they sting you to tell you to go away sometimes. And
Wow.
a valuable lesson that I learned is that I inherited this hive from a friend of mine, and it had not been really properly managed, and it
Mm,
had too many supers on it, and eventually the hive got aggressive.
mm,
And so we had to split it and requeen it. And being able to, I really think this is the coolest thing, being able to hold a frame of, honey and wax and brood and all the
yeah.
bees just working together is such an amazing experience. The sound of them, the sight of them, what they're doing in the darkness, like working together as a
Hmm.
team to, you know, build a family and just it's just absolutely so interesting when you really get into the secret life of bees. And someday I sincerely hope that I can do some more beekeeping because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so
Maybe
great.
find a friend's property or somebody else who'd let you do it on some
Yeah,
property that they have or something that you can try that. And again, since that experience, I
worth
share the
it.
same sort of thing. And the lady that was with me to check out these beehives and everything, and she was like, just stay calm. And because I was, I let her know ahead of time. I hadn't been around bees. I haven't done that, to that level other than the ones that show up in my garden and everything. She's all like, stay calm. Don't even worry about all that. And I'm like, I think I might, I'm really kind of fascinated with this. So I think I might be really good. And then again, like you said, I got around them. They're buzzing all over around me. And I was just like, wow, this is great. I was
Yeah.
really surprised at myself even because I thought I was going to be okay, but I was even more than okay. This was just like so amazing. Just that for one, just having them all flying around you for one. But then, like you said, when we pulled out some of those parts of the beehive and got to see those frames with all of that's going on, and then we actually got to see one of the queens too, which was really amazing.
Mhm.
I was blown away by the whole thing. It was just amazing.
It's a magical thing when you really look into it. It's just
Yeah.
so incredible to
Yeah,
think
my
about.
younger self would be very surprised at me for that from that day for sure.
I'm
There
so
was
proud of you.
I mean, that's big to overcome that. When I was a kid,
Mhm.
I have an allergy to bee stings. I got stung here once and I couldn't see
Oh,
for like 2
oh my
days,
gosh.
and it was traumatic. And so it's been a long road to overcome that fear that I had, that
Yeah.
PTSD from that incident and others. And so yeah, literally yesterday was like my first day. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try picking one of these male ones up. I don't know if I can do this. And then it was like sort of like vibrating on my finger. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is so magical. I was like, this is the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. It's just what it felt like. So of course I had to make a reel about it today as if I knew about it for years when I just found out about it. So
It's
It
just
is
great.
it is important to note, just in all of these wonderful things that we're saying, is that bumblebees can sting you more than one time. A honeybee can sting you one time.
Right.
So don't be walking around picking up the fat, fluffy nopes or anything. Leave the big
Yeah.
bumblebees alone. Give them their space. They're
Yeah.
very territorial and aggressive if you're near their nest. But
Oh yeah.
generally out in the garden, if they're foraging, a foraging bee is an unbothered bee, and honeybees, especially out foraging, are not looking to sting anyone. So just be calm.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just be kind of calm, be cool with it all, right? These are just new things for us to experience and everything. And again, so much of it can be just so fascinating when it comes down to watching and seeing. And you're talking about, these other types of bees that can sting and all of that. There are things that will come after you. There are things that will do that. And you just gotta kind of keep calm, step back, watch them. Like one of my favorite things actually in the garden is wasps.
Me
I
too.
love watching wasps fly around my garden. I love watching them going up and underneath of the leaves of the brassicas and things that we're growing, because they're searching
Yes.
for all of those other, moth worms and things like that, and it's just, again, fascinating to watch them just go out and go on a hunt, and as long as I'm
Absolutely.
stepped back and I'm not messing with them, they could do their thing and it's just fine.
I've seen them absolutely devour a tomato hornworm right before my very eyes before, and it
Oh
is
my.
an amazing thing to witness. It really
It
is.
is
I'm
great.
just like, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
my daughter shared actually, on another one, my daughter shared with me a reel that someone was able to capture a jumping spider, just totally pounce on a fly.
Oh,
I mean, just like a cat would, you know what I mean? Sneaking up,
man.
crawling up really slowly, moving and just waiting for the right movement or right moment, and just boom, right onto this fly, took it, and I was just like, unbelievable.
I love spiders.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
jumpers are my favorite too.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to fruit trees, bees are very important, and other pollinators. In fact,
Yes.
my plum tree this year, I probably had thousands of blooms on it, and just standing there and hearing them like buzz around you in the sun, it was a pretty
Mhm.
neat experience to see them just, jumping from tree to tree to tree.
Yeah.
But proximity is really important. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, just plant one tree, it's self-pollinated. But most trees, you really do need two to get a good cross pollination. And somebody told me this: if you can see it, they're probably going to be able to make it. So line of sight is a good judge of distance when
Yeah.
it comes to trees.
Have you thought about maybe getting into your own beekeeping or anything like that? I mean, with all those sort of trees you've got, I mean, you'd probably be helpful to the pollination, like you said. But you probably got plenty of pollinators anyways. But it'd be kind of
Yeah, I
fun.
mean, it would be really fun. Apples are really tricky when it comes to pollination of all the different types. So I would do it for the apple trees to get more fruit set on those, because you really have to have like specific ones match up at specific times, and they really have to pollinate to work out.
Yeah. That would.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Josh, rather than doing honeybees, since you do have an allergy,
Oh,
just adding more homes for native bees or like solitary bees in your garden
yeah.
can be almost sometimes, in some cases, more effective than having honeybees, because honeybees have a much further range than native and solitary bees do. And honeybees specifically, they have pollen baskets on their legs. They'll put a bunch of pollen on their legs, but native bees tend to be more hairy and they collect more pollen and they kind of just do a belly flop inside all of these flowers and things.
Yes.
And so they also tend to be less aggressive. So having a home for more native bees and solitary bees is really awesome. And I think we focus too much on the honeybee. So maybe something like that would be fun to look into for you.
Like those
Yeah,
little
you
bee
can.
houses that you'll get with the holes in them and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can just set them right up and get them right up on each of your trees, and they can just be right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And one of the things we had a show not too long ago where we were talking with a beekeeper and focusing on the idea of native bees and that sort of thing, because that is, really kind of important. We all do kind of think of, honeybees when we're thinking of beekeeping and all of that, but it is kind of important to think about the native bees that are, native to our area and to help encourage them grow as well too.
Yeah, they stay more local. I saw something like some bees spend most of their life within like 50 to 100 and something feet of where their nest is. So your backyard may be their entire home, the only thing they've ever known. And I just think it's really, really, really cool that they have that ability and that you can develop a personal relationship with your little solitary or like native bees in your yard.
I'm going to be thinking about that.
Yes. I'm telling you, the bee puns they come naturally. I'll tell you, we did that weekend where we had beekeepers and did all that sort of stuff, as I mentioned, with the Southern Oregon Bee Association. We had a couple of great guests on our Saturday and our Sunday show, and that's all that weekend was just bee puns, one bee pun after another.
I love it. I'm so pro this.
Yes.
Well, while we're talking about pollinators, I did prepare a small pollinator trivia question. If you guys want some pollinator trivia.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get it.
Are you okay?
We're down for sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
We're into it.
And Dezz was the one that trivia'd me on my first podcast, and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
I did.
Schooled me, first of all. But second of all, these are not that hard. These are cakewalk questions. So, all right. So besides bees, name 3 other creatures that are considered pollinators. And Dez, you can't go first.
Yeah,
So,
I can't go first. I was gonna wait.
So besides bees, 3 other
Besides
creatures
bees.
that would be considered pollinators.
Well, let's see. I'll go with butterflies. Right. 3. Now you're really literally I just went over all this stuff a few weeks ago. I know some birds can birds can be pollinators. And oh no, and I can't now I can't even look at the chat because we're starting to get some answers in the chat. So okay, I'll go ahead and let you go, Dezz. I got 2.
Okay. You got bats.
Oh,
Yep.
Yes.
That's
That was a big one.
Moths. Yep.
Flies.
Big
going,
one. Ants. Yeah. That's great.
Beetles.
Yes, Colorado beetles actually do pollinate squash flowers.
And some
cucumber beetles and stuff. Yeah. And some lizards. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's so many things that pollinate. Wasps. Did I say that out loud?
Wasps. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Wasps do.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
All right. You guys did great on this. All right. I only have a couple other questions. I know we got limited time.
No problem. No, we don't. No, you go ahead. This is great.
In addition to the loss of habitat for feeding and nesting, which of these are not reasons for a decline in pollinators? So which of these reasons are not a reason for the decline in pollinators? Number 1, pesticides. Number 2, climate change. Number 3, increase in GMO foods. And number 4, invasive species. So pesticides, climate change, increased GMO, and invasive species. Which one is not?
Oh my gosh.
For a decline?
That doesn't seem easy at all.
I think
this
I know
was
this
actually
one.
a little tough here.
I'll answer.
Yeah, go for it.
If you think you know, you go.
Well, I should probably guess. Okay. Well,
pesticides, climate change, GMOs, invasive species.
I'm gonna go with I don't know, GMOs.
That's it. You got it.
Right on. Okay. Excellent.
I didn't actually know this. I thought, oh, there's no way. Well, GMOs mean less pesticide use, which means that you're actually harming the bees less, which is sort of surprising because you'd think, oh, pollinators, GMO, all that. Mm-hmm. But that's not one of the reasons. So,
well, and that's also a broader conversation about how GMOs are not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah. In some ways, they can be bad, but that has more to do with the farming research practices and less to do with a genetically modified seed, because sometimes it just means that it's more disease resistant and more pest resistant without having to use as many harsh chemicals or, whatever, pesticides, whatever. So.
Yeah. And more and more I look into those sort of things when it comes to GMOs, the more, I kind of, we come to that kind of understanding. I think the one thing that's just really, with that is that's not as clear for a lot of people is the long-term research that needs to be done in order to really kind of know some of these effects on us and our food consumption and those sort of things, Totally. And I think that's what really kind of keeps people, on edge when it comes to GMOs. But again, as we learn more and more is, that question really kind of, is an example of is that sometimes there are some positive effects. I mean, if they're not using as much pesticides out there, that's great. I mean, the less chemicals that are floating around in our food and also affecting these just necessary pollinators and important, creatures in our ecosystem, then, those are things we need to look at and to kind of be able to acknowledge, when it comes down to it, Absolutely. a lot of things just aren't black and white,
Yeah, don't get me started on glyphosate, but
yeah,
that's a whole.
Don't get any of us started on glyphosate.
I'm telling you, exactly.
All right, last question on the quiz. This one,
okay.
This one is a softball. I'm gonna be honest. But is it better to plant native or non-native plants to attract pollinators?
Native.
I was gonna say native. I was gonna say, you want to say it at the
Always
same
gonna be
time?
native.
Native,
But
right?
why? Can you say why? That's really the question.
Absolutely. Native plants are more drought tolerant. They're more pest resistant. They are actually physically made to handle the area that they originate from. Pollinators and insects, birds, the local wildlife all have adapted to be able to use those plants to be able to survive. And there's a reason why you can grow a giant 100-foot tall tree in the Pacific Northwest and you have, big boughs on these trees and things, and why trees that do better in hotter areas have smaller, more leathery leaves that are more compact. And the reasons why there's some things that have like more water holding capacity within their systems. So all of those reasons. I mean, there are plants that I have out in my garden right now because I've really focused on putting more natives into my perennial pollinator garden, and I do not water it. I don't water it, and they are blooming, and there are pollinators all over them right now because it's still in the 80s here. It was 91 amazing. Yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
So,
it's
too hot.
one of the other kind of more recent visits I did for that pollinator weekend we did is I went to go visit this called the Rogue Valley Pollinator Project that we have here in Southern Oregon, and they're all about building and setting up native gardens and all of that. They'll put them in. They had a project that we had a big wildfire that came through this area and really destroyed a lot of homes and places. It was really bad. So they volunteer and put out these native gardens for a lot of people to help them rebuild their places and stuff. And they just do some really awesome things. And one of those things too, as well as what you're talking about there, is that native plants are why we have native pollinators. I mean, they all have some, again, it's this whole circle of our environment and our ecosystem and everything that works. And some of those plants are, that's why our natives have adapted to our area, is because of some of those plants that they feed off and live and pollinate and all of that as well too. And so that's one of my big goals this next year, and I'm going to be working with this organization too to maybe do some things and some videos and stuff and make sure we're putting a lot more native garden spaces around what we've got growing here for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, y'all are just knocking this out of the park. And Jay really likes the quiz. So I do have a fourth question that I didn't want to bring up, but I'm going to break it out real quick.
There you go. Actually, no doubt.
It's another easy one. Okay. So what percentage of food that we eat every day requires pollinators? A, 20%, B, 33%, or C, 50%. So 20, 33, or 50%. What percent of food do we eat every day?
Well, let's see.
Pollinators.
It's a good question. I don't think it's as easy as you were making it out to be.
I'd have to say 50% probably.
I'll go with the middle, 33%.
Enid got it, 33%. 1 out of 3.
Dang.
There's a lot of food that doesn't require pollinators, and
that's true.
We're not going to starve if they all die, but it's not going to be good. All the food we love requires pollinators.
Everybody in the chat, most everybody was saying 50% too. So they were with you too, Dez.
Well, I think it's always better to say we should aim high as far as
aim high, right?
So, aim high.
Exactly.
All right, that's all the trivia we got for today, but y'all did great, as expected. So.
That's awesome. Thanks for bringing that to the round table. That's so awesome. I remember going on the Garden Party podcast with you, Dez, and you busted out a great quiz too. Then that was really fun. So thanks for doing that, Josh.
Quiz for you?
yeah, we did a quiz that night. That was great.
That.
Yeah,
Justin actually asked me to do that
as well. So I got schooled by both of you. Just wanted to say,
it was a lot of fun.
Turn the table.
That's right. Exactly. That's perfect.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing that because it's a fun reminder sometimes because we're all of us are experts in whatever we're an expert in gardening here.
Yeah.
And I think it's always fun when we do trivia like this and we have a community engagement on it because sometimes I think because we're all so knowledgeable that we forget how knowledgeable we are and being
Yeah.
able to share something that seems like common sense for us now and it sparks something in someone else. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that, or I learned something from that is so valuable. It's
Yeah.
so valuable. That's why gardening is so awesome because it just builds a great community of people that are just so into learning about nature and how to be better about it and how to garden and how to keep growing on, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Keep on growing for sure. And
Yes.
again, a big part of why I do the show, why I love these sort of conversations and all of that is, in just what you were saying about bringing the community together so we can have these conversations and kind of share the knowledge that we have and spread it around, because, it's really important not only to know and understand just a little bit better about gardening and our garden spaces, but what it also can, give back to us as well too. There's just so many aspects of gardening that when we first get into it, we don't understand that
Yeah.
that's going to benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. It's an overwhelming wealth of information.
Yeah.
I've learned so much from just watching other content creators. Like, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
I never would have thought to do that, or oh, let me go try that. Let's see if I can do that. And it's inspired me in a lot of ways. One, to make better content, and two,
Yeah.
to like try something in a different way. Like I'll see somebody do something. I'm like, oh, I've been doing it this way this whole time, and they're like, oh, try it this way. Like, oh man, I
Yeah.
never would have thought of that. So just
Yeah.
just getting that community aspect to have a broad range of ideas just makes us all
Hmm.
better.
Yeah, and also, the big thing too is connecting with those who are, creating that content and doing that again in more in the community building aspect. But once we, once we find people that we're comfortable with and what they're doing and what they're showing on their gardens, that helps us, learn a bit better and more
Mhm.
comfortable with the information that we're getting because we're able to watch these people do these things in their garden, see what they're doing and see what their results are and all of that sort of stuff so that we can get more from it than, one of the things I've been really kind of pushing back on, actually, something I got into a lot for a while, uh, um, groups where, especially like Facebook groups, gardening
Oh,
groups, and all of that sort of stuff,
yeah.
is that, for a long time I was like, oh, this is great. I'd get in there and I'd be trying to help out, answer questions, and it just becomes a
Mhm.
cesspool of misinformation. You're
Mhm.
hearing from a bunch of people that you're not have a connection with at all, who are telling you things as though they know what they're talking about. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what the value, and a lot of people even push back on the idea of learning from folks on YouTube, but I think I feel completely the opposite way. I
Me
think
too.
that's just one of the best ways to learn is to make a connection with somebody that, you're comfortable listening to, you really enjoy what they do and how they put out their stuff. And that's going to help you learn a lot better than being out in some of these other social media spaces trying to get information about things, you know.
Yes, I've been heavily inspired by YouTube gardeners.
Hmm.
So heavily inspired by them. I literally the access I had for gardening before YouTube was even a big deal was just like watching Monty Don on PBS, to be honest,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and any of the English gardeners that
Or
were
Joe
doing something
Lample. Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then just beyond that, like the ones that did start putting out like gardening content on YouTube.
Yeah.
And there, now there's more access than there ever was before. And I don't think there's anything there but a net positive. It's a
Hmm.
net positive.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
you can go and you can learn this information and it works for you in your garden and you're growing, then what is the negative there? You know,
Hmm.
we should be inspired by each other.
Yeah.
Well, and also the local community. That's one of the things that
Yeah,
I've
that
really been
too.
Hmm.
embracing lately is I've been gardening by myself for years. And then finally, last year we started this community garden in my small little town I live in. And
Oh, yeah.
like, oh, sure, I'll get involved, and I'm going down there doing some stuff, teaching some things and planting things, helping them with the raised beds and just talking to other people like, okay, well, what are you doing? And Now, Master Gardener, they've got this Plant a Row garden, which is like, to help feed the hungry. And so people volunteer like a couple times a week. And so now I'll get to go and volunteer to help be there to answer other people's questions. So I'm really looking forward to just like learning in the local environment as well to see what everybody else is doing.
That's very important.
And in both cases, what we're looking at is making kind of human connections with people who are doing things and out there and growing and all that sort of stuff, whether, we're getting it from others and other places on YouTube, or we're spending our time in our local community trying to find that. I try to work and do as much as I can and connecting with people locally as well, like that, Josh, community gardens and other kind of like gardening presentations and all that sort of stuff. I got it myself. Try to find some time here maybe in the next year or two to actually get through a Master Gardener program myself. I think that would just be so much fun and everything as well.
It's so intensive and so worth it.
It's pretty intense. I feel like I was back in college, like sit there like okay.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that scientific name? How do you pronounce that? Rubius? What? Langstrom?
I think I've probably put in a good 60 plus hours volunteering this year. And last year, I think I hit maybe 75 something. But it's so worth it. I get, the access to community and also just like education, continuing education.
Mm-hmm.
It's so worth it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Exactly. And again, it's just kind of continuing that idea of making connections with like-minded people can be just such a way to inspire what we do in our day-to-day lives, in different ways.
Yesterday, and that'll be quick, but yesterday, me and a couple of our friends went to it was like the Native Prairie Project or the Prairie something. It's like 10 minutes from my house. There's this like nature preserve, and they were talking about how, there used to be way more prairie and grasslands here in Texas, and they're just working as hard as they can to, rebuild a lot of the habitat loss. But they also had the master naturalists there and, the Creek Authority and the Native Plant Society and all of that stuff. And it was just really cool to go out there and see their displays, even the birding. I don't remember what they're called, but I think it's like the Texas Birders, I don't know, group anyway. But it was so cool to be able to go out there and see that. And it was such a small gathering, but it was so worth it. And now, like, I'm donating to that. I'm considering maybe I want to be a master naturalist as well as a master gardener, just to like kind of be more well-rounded in those things. And it's those things that are happening in your local community that you can seek out that have so much free education without you even having to volunteer. You can just go to their events and you can network with people and just see how you can get involved without having to have the time commitment of going through the entire program. So I just encourage anybody that's watching or anybody that's listening to seek that out within your own community, because it's free information for the public. A lot of it is, grant funded or government funded, and it's there for your benefit anyway, most of the time in connection with your local extension office. And it's just really, it's really eye-opening about how you can exist as a gardener in your own local community. Amazing. That's great, Rick.
Exactly. And also, that's something we need to do more of. I think, as we tout YouTube gardeners, and I think that's great to help us out and learn things and stuff too. But really, really that encouragement to get outside of our own bubbles and our own spaces and things like that to meet other people who are like-minded like us. Like I said, I got to go to that pollinator project recently that's doing, similar types of things, and that Southern Oregon Beekeepers Association, and these sort of groups and these folks, again too, they welcome most anybody. You can just go show up and just go hang out, and they're so appreciative of you, coming in and learning and learning more about what it is that drives their passion as well too. And then like you said, you never know, you might just end up becoming a regular or a like you're saying, somebody who's contributing as well.
Like Josh, he's going to be a master gardener soon.
That's
Soon.
right.
Soon I'll
And
get
one
to
thing
wear the
about all
green
gardeners,
vest. Do you have green
oh, I
vest? I
love
just want
it.
to know. Do you have green vest that you have to wear?
We'll have green aprons, but I don't
Okay.
have one. I don't
Okay.
have one. I just
Need-
wear my I have a lanyard I wear.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
But I've also only been a master gardener since 2021, I think.
okay.
It's still pretty
I think it's
good. Three
2021. Yeah.
years.
Yeah. That's
Luckily,
3 years
luck-
longer than me.
you'll get there.
I'll get there.
You will get there. The only
Yeah.
thing that allowed me to get there right now is the fact that just the pandemic allowed me to be able to do it on the internet. They did not
Right.
have that as an option before then.
Right.
And now, as a result of that, they're doing, Hort Principles class that's available whether you want to become a master gardener, certified master gardener, and volunteer your time or not, which is so cool. So they've expanded their reach just by being able to make it more accessible online. And I help out with that class, each year, and it's really neat. But
Yeah. And those are the ways to go and learn out there, everybody. If you're wanting to learn more, and especially, again, too, I think, kind of looking at that YouTube versus doing things locally, kind of those differences. Great things to learn, ways to be inspired through people who are growing in their own gardens and all that sort of stuff. But the real great information is from those people who are growing locally. Because they're growing in your area, they're growing in your, the same climate, and they're able to, you're really able to find out those things that are really going to help you out in your garden more so than most anything else.
That's actually one of the things that I noticed from the other side of the table is I'm generating content. I'm familiar with sort of what grows in my region, and people are like, well, can I grow these in Hawaii? Can I grow these in zone 3? Can I grow, no, yeah, sorry. That's gonna like, so just understanding like how local knowledge is so important. And you just can't look at like something online without taking into account like which part of the country you're in, what's my specific microclimate look like, what are the pests and disease factors. And one of the fun things that I've been doing lately, which has been new for me, is I've been going around to different like pick farms in my area and just be like, hey, can I interview you and ask you questions? And then I'll go talk to them, ask them stuff, and then we'll do sort of a collab together, which has been fun. But they've taught me little secrets about things that I never would have known. There's one place I went to up in Virginia called Edible Landscaping, which is like a dream for anybody that's in fruit trees, because they literally have like the most fruiting plants in the entire East Coast. Anyway, but talking to the guy that's been doing it for like 40 some years, and he's like, oh no, you want to plant this, don't plant that, don't try this plant, you're just going to fail and frustrate yourself, don't go buy this from the big box store, you want to get these native varieties, look for fire blight resist. So in 5 minutes, I learned more from him than I learned in years on certain things. And I was just mind blown from that.
So powerful.
It's pretty neat experience, some of these people that have been doing it for years in that area.
Yeah, exactly. And again, coming down to the fact that there's so many people in gardening clubs and different things that you can find in your local area, but especially as you're talking, you guys, master gardeners, your university extensions and things like that, this is where you want to get your real information. If you're out there seeking and trying to find out what's going to work and what's going to work best for you, is finding these places and getting involved and doing those sort of things. And then and then what you're doing for yourself too is just building some community around yourself to help you, which helps us all in our day-to-day lives, knowing that we have people that share our same passions, our same things that really kind of get us, going and everything. And then as well, like I said, it does translate to those people who are out there sharing content like yourselves, myself, and so many others that we have on this show and stuff too, because it may not be quite the same environment, the same place, like one of my favorite gardeners we had on our show last week was Mark Valencia from Self-Sufficient Me over in Australia.
I love that guy.
and just he's been one of the biggest inspirations to me, and just my passion that I have for gardening and growing, because he conveys that so well through what he does in his video content. And I've been following him since way early days and all that sort of stuff. So, to have folks like that and people like that who are doing things in Australia. I can't grow what he's growing in Australia. I can't do those sort of things in a way that he's growing, but I can grow and continue to grow more of what I want to do and everything here in my area through that inspiration to do that. So I think that's what a lot of us, here in the online gardening community really, do so well, is to help inspire other people to do what they need to do. And then go find those local organizations that are going to really help you key it in and do it really well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And Josh, you should tell people when they ask you if they can grow something XYZ place, it depends. That's a good answer to give. It depends. I recommend Google. Find your growing zone, and you can grow anything. But the question is, should you? And how much time do you have to
and what's it going to take?
Watering,
what's it going to take?
Shading, wheeling it in and out.
I can tell you one thing that I wish I never grew, and I sort of hate to even say this, but I tried growing dragon fruit. Okay. And so I got 4 different types, and I put them in this big container. I built this pole and this thing on top. I had handles. The thing must have weighed like 100 pounds. I rolled in and out of my garage. Finally, after a year, I finally got flowers open. So I'm there in the middle of the night, hand pollinating with a paintbrush. I didn't get any fruit from that. All right. So next year, same thing, rolling it in and out, tried it again. I didn't get fruit. And I was like, I'm selling this. This is not worth getting cut, prickled, and heavy. And the thing grows like a weed too. So anyway, that was a lesson for me. Like, there's some things you just are not worth growing if you can't get fruit off of them.
Nope.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things I got from the National Heirloom Exposition, was a nice big chunk of some dragon fruit that I was thinking about planting out and trying and all of that as well. But I don't know. We'll see.
Good luck. I mean,
good luck. I love it though. Exactly. This is what we need to hear, right?
If you're in a greenhouse environment,
grow a giant tree and
I mean, it grows like a vine up in the trees, and there's climates. Like, I don't have that kind of space at a nice humid environment,
Right.
Yeah.
80 degrees every day.
They're like an epiphyte. They like to climb and air root themselves up.
Then they grow a little bit better in where you're growing.
Where I'm growing?
Yeah.
No, even here it's difficult. I mean, yes, Texas has so many different ecoregions. It's crazy. Like just yesterday, we had a snowstorm. We've had an atmospheric river basically in the northern part of the, right where the Texas-Oklahoma border is. They've just been having river floods. Meanwhile, we here in Austin were getting no rain at all whatsoever. And, Destin, Texas garden guy down in Houston, he's been getting a decent amount of rain, but mostly just really nice temperatures. And then there are some other areas that are just still in a drought, like us. And it's so bizarre. Like, we have all these things going on where it's like 91 degrees with the heat index yesterday and humid as heck here. And a lot of the grass is still crunchy. Meanwhile, my sister has got so much rain that her septic tank keeps trying to overflow. You know what I'm saying? Because of the groundwater. And it's
like spread it around a little.
Yeah. So like, even with all of that going on, Destin can still get really cold temperatures down there in Houston. I mean, they can get snow. So, a dragon fruit is not really going to survive down there.
Yeah.
And you just still have to have a greenhouse.
In Texas. I lived in Dallas-Fort Worth for a couple of years, and we got snow there, and I was like, I thought it didn't snow in Texas. I thought we were in Texas. It's like 100 every day all summer, and then all of a sudden in the winter it's going to snow.
Yeah, and a lot of times it does the black ice thing, which is really dangerous because you can't see it. And, we'll have snow, and then it'll be a little too wet, and then we'll have a lot of ice, and then we're just incapacitated, immobilized. Nobody can do anything. It's dangerous. It's slick. It's bad.
I remember the huge freeze and all of that Texas had a couple of years ago that took out all the power and all that sort of stuff. And that just blew me away. I was like, Texas? Really?
Yes.
Because I don't think of it that way. I think this is going to be a nice hot climate throughout the whole year, but it's amazing to, again, see that they have those different climate issues there as well.
Oh yeah, we have blizzards, hurricanes,
Oh gosh, the hurricanes.
snowstorms, major thunderstorms, tornadoes, like what you want. We got it.
You
Droughts.
you got a bit of everything there, huh?
Yes, we do.
All right, so I've got a curiosity question for you both as gardeners. Is there any one thing that you grew this year that like grew so much of it you got sick of eating it by the end of the season? You're like, I can't believe how much I've grown and eaten of this thing, and like I've eaten so much of it, it's sort of just an unimaginable amount. Anything like that? You guys have excessive crops of any sort?
There are a few things, and I had some really good stuff that grew this year. Tomatoes, which I haven't had very much good success with over the last few seasons and everything. So we've just had a ton of tomatoes coming out and just tons of different varieties of them and everything. So, and I don't know if I really get too much of those. One of my favorite things are cucumbers. And I will say this, I did get more cucumbers than I really could ever do with this year, and my favorites are the lemon cucumbers.
Ooh.
And all of that. So I've made some pickles and done some different things with them and everything, but I don't know, I might be a little cucumbered out maybe at this point. Maybe
Pickled or just cucumbered?
Well, I don't know, I guess I guess we can always do pickles.
Do you like pickles? Okay.
This was my first time this year. It's kind of my first little experiment with trying them and doing that. So,
Ooh.
Again, some of them I'm still kind of testing and trying out and everything. But yeah, I was really kind of surprised. I love, and my whole gardening story starts with cucumbers. Cucumbers are one of my favorite things ever. But it was a really plentiful season. Tons of volunteers of these lemon cucumbers. I let some of them drop the year before and had some in my compost, and we spread them out everywhere. And I ended up with all these lemon cucumber plants popping up all over the place. So we had tons of them.
I'm gonna try that next year, just because I haven't tried a lemon cucumber, and I love cucumbers. So
yeah.
Lemon
Key to those though are getting them young, just like with most cucumbers. You want to get them before the seeds start to harden up, or you think lemon cucumber, you think because they're going to turn yellow.
Yeah.
And you don't want them to turn yellow. So that's kind of a trick in the whole lemon cucumber name. So it kind of tricks you into the idea of like, oh, wait until they're nice and yellow and then they're going to be perfect. And then you're crunching into these hard seeds going, what's going on? Why is this? No, you want to get them nice and young right before they start to shade into that yellow.
Absolutely.
Then they're perfect.
All right. Good answer. Dezz, what about you? What was your excessive crop this year?
So my excessive crop this year was mealybugs. Listen, last year was the worst year I've ever had for gardening, truly, and I barely got anything. We had 100 degrees by like April, and I believe it was like, what is it, Memorial Day weekend or something? It was like 117 with the heat index. And basically it just stayed at that temperature for most of the summer. And unfortunately, most vegetables will not set fruit above about 90 degrees, especially tomatoes, which are my love. I love tomatoes. And so I hardly got anything. And so this year I planted a much smaller vegetable garden because I knew it was still going to be hot. And I did get quite a few cucumbers until mid-June. And then I sort of was like done with that because the tomatoes weren't producing anything really. They were not flowering. And even if they did flower, they weren't really setting a lot of fruit. And if they did set any fruit, it was dropping because it was just so hot. And that was with shade cloth. So I am actually reworking my entire vegetable garden. I've been waiting on it to get cool enough here to be able to do it and just to be home. I've been traveling a little bit more lately. And so I haven't really been out there doing it, but I'm about to just be redoing everything. I'm taking all my raised beds out. I'm basically probably going back into the ground with my garden. I'm just reworking how I'm putting shade up there. We're going to try it a completely different method this time.
Wow.
Nice.
So
I can't wait
I
to see
had
that,
been in
Annette.
the ground. And then I realized I couldn't really do root vegetables in the ground because I have really a very heavy gumbo clay soil where I'm at. I'm on the edge of the Blackland Prairie here in Austin, and it was just forcing my radishes and stuff out of the ground. So then I was like, well, let me just raise the level about 6 inches. But then I was like, maybe I just want to go ahead and raise it up more, save my back or whatever. And now I'm like, I just can't. It's not working out for me. The raised beds can't stay moist enough because it's just too dry here. And I just need to think harder about how I'm doing this. So I started a series. I've already been posting about it a little bit on, TikTok, Instagram, whatever. And then I've done a lot of traveling in October, so I haven't revisited it yet, but I'm about to be doing that because we need to get things moving along when it's cool enough for me to be able to do that so I can have an early spring garden.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun project, though. Kind of just a reimagining of everything, a complete remodel, as you would say, to the whole gardening thing. It's great. It'll be fun to see what you can come up with, and with these newer ideas and things as well, too.
Yeah, I just also think that maybe so I had about 7 cubic yards of garden soil trucked in and dumped in my backyard about like 3 years ago, I want to say. And that's when my mealybug problem started. So I'm not 100% sure that it wasn't brought in by that soil because mealybugs go to the soil to overwinter, and I got it dumped in early spring. So maybe the place I got it from, their cultural practices weren't very responsible as far as the mealybugs go. So that's another motivation for me to just tear it apart. I'm just like, I got a gardener's rage at the moment about these mealybugs.
I feel the same way about my squash bug issue, man. I've been dealing with the last couple of years. These things are just driving me nuts.
I'm right there with borers, fruit tree, peach tree, lesser peach tree borers killed my apricot tree this year, and I'm out for vengeance next year.
So my. Yeah.
Yeah.
No fun. Again, coming back to the idea of all of these great fun bugs and critters and things that we have in our garden, there's some not so fun ones as well.
Really? That's totally true. But mealybugs do exist. That's just the way it is, somebody eventually will end up with them. They travel on the wind. And it's just a fact of life. And we just have to figure out how we're moving on. And, one great lesson that these mealybugs have taught me is that you should not be shy about pruning your plants. If you see mealybug affected plant material and you can prune it away, get rid of it. Don't even bother spraying it. If you have to get rid of the entire plant, it's much better to do that than it is to risk your entire garden. One plant is nothing compared to your entire garden. Give it up.
That's so true.
And
so
that goes
hard
for
to
any
do.
plant diseases too. It is so hard to do. It is so hard to do. It's one of the hardest lessons a beginner gardener has to learn, as a matter of fact, is just being ruthless with what they will allow to continue in their own garden.
That sounds like a good video, Dezz. Good hook there.
Ruthless gardening.
Yeah,
Ruthless gardening.
It's hard because all of us here know that our plants are our precious, right? Like each plant is so precious to us. We put all of our time and our investment and our love and patience into it, and we put hope into it, and we want that plant to thrive, and we have visions of how we want our garden to manifest. And it's a part of nature. It's not always going to happen the way we want it to. Rarely will it ever happen the way we want, because Mama Nature always knows best, and she's going to do what she wants.
Best laid plans, right? Best laid plans. You can't. It's just you got to go into it knowing that what the end result is not going to be what you envision to begin with. But again, it's all that's the fun of gardening, is that journey and that process. Throughout the season. And sometimes, we're just got to deal with certain issues, like I was saying, for me is these dang squash bugs. And what I did is year before this last season, I didn't grow any squash. I had such a problem with it. The year before that, I was like, you know what? Let's take a year off. Let's see if we can't just kind of by not growing any around, can we really just disrupt this life cycle of these bugs and
Actually
stop them? And the only thing I did was not grow squash for a year. That's what only result I got out of that.
Yeah.
One thing you could do, and I actually learned about this recently, is you can get parthenocarpic squash, meaning it doesn't require pollinators, and then you cover the whole area with a mesh, and it prevents any bugs from getting into the squash. You will get no bugs in there at all if you seal it that way with that mesh. I forget what it's called, or whatever it's called. But you have to get a specific type that doesn't need pollinators in order to set fruit. It's like a greenhouse variety is what they're usually called. So I learned
that's cool.
You can get those for squash and zucchini.
Yeah, and that is a way too of dealing with certain things in different aspects. There are certain varieties of different things that have resistance to, certain issues and things, For me, one of the big transitions I had, because I'm the same way as you, Dez, I love tomatoes. Tomatoes are one of my favorite things. I love growing multiple different varieties of tomatoes and everything. But it became, because of my climate and the way things have been changing so much, it became such an issue to grow all of these amazing varieties and these heirlooms and all this sort of stuff that I was able to before, because I ran into that similar issue where, again, my plants for a couple of seasons weren't producing. They were dropping their flowers. I wasn't getting much of anything, but just a little bit in the fall as things started to cool down, and we would try to catch up with what we could get in the fall. So I had to move towards more heat resistant varieties of tomatoes, in order to produce more tomatoes in my garden again. So, there's all these different aspects of different types of varieties that can deal with certain issues, whether they're climate or pests or different things like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I'm so tomato motivated. I'm not. I'm angry. I'm angry about this. Like, I've planted 56 feet of tomatoes and I didn't get any this year hardly.
Oh my gosh!
It's so frustrating.
I would be crying right now. I would be crying.
Yeah,
that's dramatic. That's literally dramatic.
I've cried so much. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. I literally have wanted to give up so many times, guys. I really have, and I'm finally to that point where I'm like, I'm not gonna give up.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna give up on this because it's something that I really do love. And again, that lesson of like, if something's not eating your garden, it's not part of the ecosystem. My garden does not exist in a greenhouse bubble. It's out there, it's in the elements, it's experiencing the seasons just like we are. It's doing its best, and we just have to persist. You have to go out and persist, because that's the big thing with gardening, is persistence is key. The will, your will to overcome the challenges that you experience each year and not give up is the thing that keeps you being a successful gardener, even when you don't get the results you want.
Yeah. Persistence and determination. Be determined to do it. Be determined to figure it out, and be persistent in your approach,
Now,
and that's kind of the way it was.
If you could just come up with an answer for squirrels eating apples, then I would be really happy.
Oh my!
What is my answer about squirrels?
I was gonna say, I know
feed them across the yard.
Yeah, feed them something else.
I have a squirrel feeder, and I feed the squirrels on the other side of the yard. But they find every apple. And this year I tried little baggies. I tried like pots and pans, and I tried a motion activated sprinkler. And I had 150 apples set fruit. And
wow.
I got about 25 apples, I'll be honest. By the end of when the fruit was ripe, and protecting them and pulling them early when they don't even taste as good, I probably got 25 apples. And that was so depressing after waiting 5-6 years for apples to set a heavy fruit load. It was heartbreaking. So I'm not a fan of squirrels.
I'm thinking
right
like
now.
Big, huge net that goes over the whole thing, but they'll figure a way through that. They're just so
smart. So
I get that.
I tell you my solutions, Dez, but I don't think you like them.
Well, listen,
I love squirrels, but I don't know if I love them that much.
I'm a realist. You know what I mean? And actually, squirrels are different in Oregon than they are in Texas, than they are in North Carolina. There are different varieties of squirrels. There are even parts of Texas that has ground squirrels. Ground squirrels are the worst because they will literally eat everything that you grow in the ground.
Oh my gosh.
So like it's a challenge no matter where you are. I mean, you could be more rural and you could have a deer problem. We have people in the city of Austin that have deer problems inside the city in their like urban neighborhoods. And it's just a constant kind of push and pull. Water them. Thirsty squirrels or hungry squirrels. If you don't have a lot of bird baths and opportunities for water, they're going to go after your more juicy fruits and vegetables like tomatoes because they have a higher water content. That's why a lot of times you'll see a couple nibbles out of your plants, or your fruit, but it's still there. They're thirsty. Wildlife is thirsty just like we are. If you're not right next to a creek or something, you don't have a natural place for them to get water, they're going to go for those things that will, sate their thirst. Also, feed them things that, like, I like to feed mine corn across the yard from the vegetable garden because it takes them longer to sit there and eat a corn kernel because it's harder, it's tougher. I don't shoo them off of certain bird feeders. I just put stuff there that they can just have. And that helps. And also, if you have a little terrier that can yap them away from your stuff, that helps as well. Mine keeps mine levitated from the ground.
Get a good, well-trained dog that's trained specifically at those guys, Or, another thing too is maybe like you're in some of the things I was thinking in that suggestions you're talking about there is maybe not across the yard, but maybe right there at the tree. Give them some apples, give them a water right there, where they're going, right where they want to go, right where they want to be.
To the squirrel gods. I laid out the half-eaten fruit by the squirrel feeder on the other side, and they still would come over in the middle of the night, and I'd see these half-eaten apples.
And you're sure it's so squirrels? They're not active at night. If it's happening at night, it could be rats. I hate to tell you,
possums.
Rats. Rats are arboreal. They like to go up in trees and they will eat things like that. I know it's the worst to hear that. It's really true. I know it's not good, but it is a thing. But so rats, raccoons, and possums will all eat, fruit out of trees. That's a thing.
Big fat
you
cats.
May consider
lots and lots of big fat cats.
Motion-activated light on your trees.
Oh.
So that way it'll like flash a light, at whatever you're trying to protect at night and run them off. It can help.
Honestly,
motion activated owls.
I was thinking about getting a couple outdoor cats. I don't know. Seems a little harsh, but
just know if you do, cats are wonderful. They're gonna eat your squirrels. They're gonna eat your rats. They're gonna eat birds. So if you care about having birds, they will definitely kill those birds. It's just
none of these are good options. I'm gonna be honest, but I appreciate everybody's assistance.
Yeah. I live in the city right here, so I got cats whether I like it or not. So my response to that was to get my own cats. Because I live right on these alleyways, so if I, when the years I lived before I even had cats, I had all sorts of cats under the house, on the house, everywhere. They were just cats everywhere all the time, having babies in my back area and everything. And just so, and so my solution was, well, let's go get our own cat. And then, that cat was, became territorial and kept all these other cats away from my alley. And that usually works for the most part. George did befriend another cat that strayed through this last year, but it went off and did something else eventually. But for the most part, George usually keeps most all the other cats away.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, cats are great.
But then again, like you said, you got those other risks with them too. I did have I got this. I was down in California. I went to go visit this farmer's market with Wendy Fan. And she's like, oh, you got to grow this pineapple sage. And I thought, oh, this is great. Try this pineapple sage. I put it into my herb garden, which is all around the front here, around the base of this bush and area that I've got. And so I planted this pineapple sage out, and it grew, and it just got really just big and wonderful. It was just turning wonderful. And then it produces these just awesome, cool trumpet flowers.
Yes.
And just all these just really just beautiful trumpet flowers. But it's growing at ground level, and I started noticing all these little hummingbirds that are popping in and trying to feed off of this pineapple sage. And it immediately in my mind was like, oh no, George is gonna get these birds. Oh, and then so immediately I'm digging this thing up, putting it in a pot, putting it up high in the back area, so that I could try to at least avoid as much of that as I possibly can.
Yeah,
that's so funny that you brought that up, because that's the plant I brought in today, was pineapple sage, because we're talking about pollinators.
There's the flowers too. Yeah,
this is a great one for hummingbirds. I grew it to about 5 feet tall one year and kept it in a pot, and then I never uppotted it, and it eventually died. So I got another one.
Excellent.
But it's really, the leaves are so cool. It's in the mint family. It's not as invasive as many other mints, which is nice. It's more of a bush. Did you find that did it spread much for you in it?
No,
or was it
no, it really just grew as a big, like you're saying, big bush.
Yeah.
I'd cut down the longer, taller ones and everything as you're preparing to plant it in there and get it more compact, and then you'll really get a good bushing effect as it grows kind of straight up.
Yeah.
And again, produces those just really awesome flowers, like you're saying. That's great. You have an example of what I was just saying. How great is that?
I can't believe you brought that up.
That's pineapple sage, black and blue salvia, many salvias in the salvia family. There are thousands of plants that have tube-shaped flowers in the mint family that are great for hummingbirds. They were a gateway plant for me for gardening, especially black and blue salvia, which grows like 5-something feet in my yard. I love them. Some are perennials, some are annuals. You can have annual sages like pineapple sage that will bring in hummingbirds as well.
Yeah.
They were my original reason. Hummingbirds were my original reason for actually getting further into gardening.
Right.
Because I just love them so much. They're like my little favorite thing. I even have a hummingbird tattoo on my arm here.
Oh, that's awesome.
What are your tips for feeding hummingbirds? Because I know there's a lot of controversy around like the dyes, your own, and how fresh does it have to be, and do you have to protect from ants? Like, what's the key to feeding hummingbirds?
Okay, so here's my deal about feeding hummingbirds. I put out hummingbird feeders only in the earlier parts of the summer, when they're just starting to come into the yard, because the temperatures are generally a little bit cooler then, and so the sugar water doesn't spoil as easily. Sugar water is incredibly easy to make at home on your own. They do not need a red dye, because the red dye does nothing to attract them, and it doesn't give them any nutritional value. So I recommend putting, a quarter of whatever nectar you make into your hummingbird feeder and putting that in the refrigerator and changing that water out, at least every 3 days. And when you do, bring your feeder in and clean out your feeder ports really, really well. They make tiny little pipe cleaner type brushes that you can really get in there to make sure they don't have any mold in them. Mold is one of the most harmful things for hummingbirds. It actually is the reason for sudden death of a lot of wild hummingbirds.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of people don't realize that it's their practices with their hummingbird feeders. Once the temperatures start to creep up about 85, 95 degrees, hopefully you have enough things flowering for them to forage. They love zinnias. They love any tube-shaped flower. I see them on my chaste trees. They will visit like any sort of trumpet vines or trumpet flowers that you have. I've even seen them on my passion vines. So really, the main thing is trying to make sure that you're keeping your feeders clean, changing the water frequently. I take mine down when things are flowering. They'll find what they need on their own. And the more I add each year, the less, amount of time that I need to have those feeders out. And for me and my busy schedule and my just moral feelings about hummingbird feeders,
right,
truly, I prefer to let them have the natural option rather than me having to worry about I didn't clean my feeder well enough, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So that's my take on it. Don't buy the, it's really kind of a total ripoff anyway to buy the stuff that comes in the plastic jug at the, big box stores. They don't really
Yeah.
do as much. And you can put a little bit, you can make your water just a little bit more sugary,
Yeah.
than those anyway, which will have you, kind of overrun in hummingbirds. But if you have I've talked to people that have they're like, oh, we have our little lake place and we go there on the weekends and I just leave the hummingbird feeder up all week. Don't do that, please. Don't do that. If you're not going to be there, if you're not going to be able to babysit it, don't leave it there. Ants will get into them. Ants can carry diseases for them too. Just be responsible about it. That's all. We need them. They're great pollinators. They're beautiful. We love them.
Yeah.
You need to do a video on all those points right there, because that was good content.
Oh, thank you. I've done that before. I've done quite a few videos about that. And generally once a year, I do talk about hummingbirds and the importance of being really responsible about your hummingbird feeders, because it's just, people really do genuinely care about that stuff. They just don't know about it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the main thing. The more of us that tell people about that, the better it is for them.
Yeah.
And just make sure to keep any sort of spider webs well away from your hummingbird feeders, because they do get stuck in there. Little hummingbirds will get stuck in the spider webs. Okay, that's my TED talk. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have never thought of about the spider webs though, is either, and that's a good thing, especially for those of us who really do like the spiders in our gardens and all of that too. I'm always encouraged to see webs around and see the different types of spiders that are making my garden space their home and all of that. But there are points where we have to kind of think about, well, maybe they're probably not meant for this space because I'm doing this there.
Yeah.
I'm noticing over here, Rick is saying, I'm gathering the dye was thought to use as a color in the light spectrum. And then Bowtie Life says, yeah, but the dye is not dangerous. It just doesn't really help. Right. So the dye is not dangerous. It's food safe. There's nothing wrong with the dye, but why would we give it to them if they don't need it? That's a human thing that we add in our food that they don't need. They don't need that. There's no point in having it in there. In my opinion, it can kind of keep you from really seeing that the water is spoiled, like the sugar water is spoiled. You want to make sure that that it's not being super cloudy or whatever, or that it's not super cloudy or whatever. So I just don't think you need it. And I'm not the only one. So many people now, we've done studies on this. We know that it's not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily a good thing for the hummingbirds either. They're not attracted to the color of that water. They're attracted to the flower port on your feeder.
Okay. And what about this here too? Is Bowtie Life is saying here, he doesn't fill them very much. So I guess his point there is that they'll consume it all. And then he just refills only so much as what he knows that they're consuming, I guess. And then he doesn't have to deal with the mold at that point.
Absolutely. Okay. So that's kind of what I was saying about just keeping a quarter of whatever nectar you make in your feeder. And then when it runs dry, wash the feeder. You can keep your nectar. We have those to go plastic containers that we use for all of our stuff. And we just put a date on there and you could stick that in the refrigerator. It will last up to 2 weeks in your refrigerator. And you can just keep, filling your feeder from that. Not every feeder is going to have the same amount of traffic that somebody else's does. So say you live up in the mountains in Colorado, you're going to have a ton more hummingbirds visit your feeders than I am even here in Central Texas in my urban backyard. I have some that return year after year. They just, they get used to you too. They'll just not even care that you're out there. But other people, they'll go through a whole entire feeder, especially in the migration zones, a day of nectar. I know, I've seen people on the internet, they have gallons of nectar that they're going through, and they have swarms of hummingbirds all over the place when they're migrating, north and south in the season. But for me, I could have my feeder stay full like for 2 weeks.
Oh
You know what I'm
my.
saying? Because it just won't
Yeah.
get used that quickly. So just because it's that big does not
Mm.
mean we need to have that much
Yeah, yeah,
liquid in
exactly.
it.
Yeah, and that's just something
On
that
a-
you just got to kind of gauge yourself through, what is the consumption level, and then at that point, just kind of keep it at that level.
One of the
Yeah.
things that I struggled with was ants on my feeder. And so I
Oh.
came up with a little yellow flagging tape. And then I put some of that, I forget what it's called, that gooey stuff. And it kept the ants from climbing up onto the shepherd's hook altogether. But I would have to
Oh.
refill from time to time because the ants would all get stuck in it. But it kept them out of the hummingbird feeder, kept them out of the sugar water.
What's really cool is that some
Tanglefoot.
hummingbird feeders
That's what
now,
it's called. Tanglefoot.
Tanglefoot.
Tanglefoot. Some hummingbird feeders now, and this is really cool, actually have a little water reservoir on the top of the feeder where the little hook is that
Yeah.
you can put water in, and it will drown the ants before they can get down
Mm.
there. So they'll like climb down the hook and then they'll get in that water. It's like a little moat, and then
Oh,
they
yeah.
won't be able to get back out. And so then they're not, getting all up in your hummingbird feeder and
Yeah,
spreading
yeah.
disease and doing all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
So
Good
yeah,
look for that.
definitely look out for that kind of feature on hummingbirds if you're thinking about getting one of those for your garden space.
And if you are applying Tanglefoot, and this goes with a question here, on a fruit tree, I never apply it directly to the tree itself. Always use flagging tape and put the Tanglefoot on the tape so you can remove it and refresh it without it getting permanently stuck to the tree. That's my advice on that.
I don't know what Jay Dixon is talking about, but he says something about a hummingbird moth. Have you guys ever seen one? A hummingbird hawk moth?
Jay put a link to one of your shorts.
Oh, yes.
Hummingbird ? Moth ?
I thought that
Yeah.
those
Yes.
were the moths for tomato hornworms. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure they are. The hummingbird hawk moth is a really cool moth, and it's most active between dusk and dawn, and in the spring and in the fall. And they look like a teeny little hummingbird, but whenever you zoom in on them, they also kind of look like a frying shrimp, in my opinion,
Right.
or like a little frying lobster. But they have really cool wings, and they can kind of make that whole like figure 8 shape that a hummingbird wing can make. And so they'll just be hovering around, and people are like, "Oh, I saw a baby hummingbird," and you're like, "Oh, I don't know. Maybe that was probably not a baby hummingbird.
Right.
It was probably a hummingbird moth." But they're very fascinating creatures. I love them. I think they're so cool. I always leave my tomato hornworms alone regardless because they are pollinators.
Right. And food, right?
Yeah, they're food. They're a really great source of protein for birds and wasps and parasitic wasps. And
Yeah.
They eat a lot of tomato plants.
they can defoliate a foot of tomato a day. For sure.
Oh my gosh.
They really can. You really have to think, like, how many tomato plants do I have? Is it worth it? Can this be a sacrificial plant, or how much damage is it? But if you found a tomato hornworm and it's already this big, like that big, leave that alone. It's done its damage already. Your plant is probably going to recover. Especially tomato plants are really cool like that. They just will push out more leaves. Especially if you're in a long growing zone. Now, I do understand the pain in a shorter growing zone. I literally can basically grow anything most of the year. So, but if you have a shorter one, I would just recommend doing more determinate plants so you know when you're going to get your tomato crop in. Okay, I feel like I'm monopolizing the time because I got going. I get so excited.
We talked about pollinators, Dezz, and you're sort of like the pollinator queen, so I think that's justified,
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And again, too, that's one of the things I love about it, doing this kind of garden roundtable thing too, is that we can all just kind of free flow and get out and talk about some of these things again that we're just really passionate about, and that we, that really get us going, and at that point, all you're doing is delivering great information. That's a great resource for everybody else, So again, I appreciate that.
If we need to change topics, I'd be happy to bring up this persimmon that I just picked. And it's got some marks on it, maybe a little discoloration there, but this one is pretty sizable.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Tell us about this persimmon.
So
Also,
this,
persimmons are so cool, but go on.
yeah. So this is a Tanishi persimmon, and it's astringent. So there's two types. There's astringent and non-astringent, meaning that if this is an astringent one, if I didn't leave this on the counter for a week and like picked it where it was sort of firm, like it would be all cottony in my mouth. It's really not pleasant feeling. It's actually the tannins and how it relates to the proteins in your saliva, which causes the astringency. So I've actually let this sit out on my counter for about a week now because I had to pick it because it got this spot and I didn't want ants getting in it. And anyway,
Yeah.
But yeah, you can tell because it's sort of dried on top.
Yeah.
But the other type, the non-astringent, you can eat like an apple. They're sort of firmer. This one gets more gooey on the inside. But Asian persimmons are one of the easiest fruits to grow because they have very little pests. They don't require a lot of pruning. Like they have a nice natural shape. The leaves are like this glossy green leaves, beautiful foliage in the fall. They're one of my favorite easy to grow fruit trees. I think if you're in zones, I want to say like 7 to 10 is the range. So they're not like super cold tolerant. Unlike American persimmons, which are like this big in comparison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You can grow those in really cold
smaller.
times, but they're much smaller. So I'm
But like a good easy beginner type tree though, right?
very easy. And super, there's a lot of different varieties. Some of them are more like conical in shape. Like this one's sort of conical, but some of them are more squat, like an apple and like flat.
Those ones
I
I've
was
seen
sort of going to
before,
cut this
flatter
open because I
ones.
wanted to see what it looked like on the inside. But here's the inside. This one doesn't have any seeds actually. It's got this cool pattern to it.
Wow.
That's
That is
awesome.
really cool.
It's a really neat thing.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I don't know. I was going to see if this is any good. Just thought it'd be sort of fun to
Yeah.
like try on the air.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Too bad we can't pass those around here.
I know.
Yeah, here you go, Dezz.
Thank you.
Let me send that over to you.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
That is
Ooh.
very
Good stuff.
good. No, that is good.
Is it citrusy? Is it sweet? What's it like?
It's like a melon, like a firm cantaloupe that's sweeter.
Oh.
Ooh, okay.
Yep. And very mild flavor to it. It's not like super sugary sweet. But yeah, I would say like melon mixed with like a little bit of like orange citrus twist. Some of them you can get are like very spicy, like a pumpkin spice to them.
Oh wow.
This one is sort of the opposite of that. So they do range quite a bit in flavors, but I've got about 10 planted and I've got 60 seedlings I'm growing right now from seed that I'm going to graft onto Asian varieties with all the different varieties I've got. So I'm going to make a bunch of trees.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's
so
one of
cool.
those things that really fascinates me though is the ability to do these be able to put multiple different varieties onto one tree. That just fascinates me like crazy all the time.
Yeah, I've got one that's got 11 different varieties on one tree. It's my Frankenstein tree.
Oh my.
And it's a citrus tree. And every year I graft like 2 or 3 more onto it as it gets bigger. And I've got it in this 15-gallon container. I bring it in. And so, yeah, it's got like 11 different types. So it's got limes, kumquats, it's got grapefruit, mandarin.
What?
Oh
on
my
one.
gosh.
It's pretty
one
How have I
tree.
not seen a video of this?
I did one a long time ago. I need to do one.
You got to redo
new
that.
one.
Yeah, you got a bigger audience now. Let's see it. Let's go.
Exactly, right?
I'm interested in this. I have like 7 lime trees. I'm about to have to move into my greenhouse. I'm like,
And you could have them
not
all
lime.
on one
They're not-
tree.
I know. Well, they're not all lime. I said lime. I've got like 1 lime tree and 5 Meyer lemons. And I did have a mandarin orange. It did not make it through the heat. And I have a pink lemon tree. But
The variegated one with the stripes?
yeah, the variegated
Oh, yeah.
pink lemon tree. But I can't get it to stop dropping fruit. It just does not want to set a fruit. I think Destin might be able to get some out of his this year, but I'm just not sure. I'm just like,
Takes a lot
how
of
long
patience.
am I gonna put up with this tree? No,
There's a lot of fruit drop and variability too in watering, especially can be a
Yes.
challenge with more or less fruit drop. But I experience fruit drop. Sometimes it'll drop all its fruit and like start over and rebloom, and I'm like, what did you do that for? Why?
Yeah. And that's exactly it.
Yeah,
I've got a ton of lemons right now. They're on my Meyer, and they're gonna ripen up and stuff.
Nice.
And my lime tree produces like mad. It's just this one variegated lemon that doesn't like me at all. I like her. She don't like me. It's fine.
If you haven't tried kumquats, they're probably my favorite of all of them. So because you can eat the whole thing, the rind and everything. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Do you have any other trees that you grow that have like multiple varieties, different types?
Yeah, I've got an apple and a pear that both have 5 different varieties on them, and that was sort of a fun experiment. And then I think besides that, it's just mostly persimmons. I'll go around and graft Asian varieties on native ones that pop out of the ground in my woods, and just sort of forget about them, and then I'll come back like, hey, that one took, that one didn't. And so now I've got them just sort of popping up in random places. So this year I actually seeded a bunch of seeds in my woods of persimmon seeds. So I'm like, years from now, there will be many persimmon trees for me to graft.
Right. That's the thing about trees, man. You got to get right on them if you want to have them, because like you're saying, it's it takes time. You got to grow these things, and sometimes, again, from however they're getting started, it could take years for you to get some results from them. So, it's one of my biggest things when I tell people you're getting a new place or you're moving to a new place, think about trees first.
Plant those
before you start working on your garden and all that other sort of stuff. Think about where and what you want to do with trees, because that's going to be the longest commitment you're making there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right on, you guys. Well, it's been really fun today getting to talk with all of you. I'll give you each actually real quick, just like we started with at the beginning there. Maybe just let everybody know a little bit about what you got going on or what you're planning coming up in the future. I know a lot of people have already jumped over and already kind of subscribed to what you guys got going there. I do encourage everybody else, if you haven't yet, to get down into the description below. I do have links to Dezz's channel and Josh's channels there as well too, so you can go and subscribe to them. And then definitely do me a favor and go and leave them a comment and let them know you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. But what have you got coming up, Dezz? I know we kind of touched on a little bit of your remodeling of your garden and stuff, but
yes, I am actually going to be reworking my vegetable garden. I have taken a big pause on it. So if you see a video like that on my channel and you're like, why the heck hasn't she posted in weeks and weeks? It's because I had to stop because I was traveling. I was doing some really cool things. I got to go down to Galveston with Texas Garden Guy, and and Phil's Figs, and we went through a tour of the Moody Gardens rainforest pyramid. It was really neat. And then I went to Washington, D.C. The weekend before the election, and I went and looked at the U.S. Botanical Gardens and their greenhouses. So I'm going to be posting videos about that. I'm going to be talking about orchids and probably going to be updating folks about what you need to do to bring in your tropical plants for the winter. And then we're going to be tackling the vegetable garden. We're going to be reworking it, rethinking it, reimagining it so it can be more successful next year. So I hope you will follow along, and please have patience with me and my delays in posting.
I know how you feel about that. I'm still working on getting my videos going back up regularly again too here.
Yeah, it just takes time sometimes.
It does. Sometimes. I got to relearn a whole new video editing software, so that's kind of been my holdback right now.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's been a lot of fun.
Wow.
I used what I started, and I just went and got and found this nice basic easy one to use, and throughout the years they've kind of upgraded and done new things with it and everything, and I haven't kept up. I just kept using the old version of it, and it finally got to a point this last year where I had an issue, and it wasn't finishing the process, and I couldn't get it to do it. So I called up the place, and I was like, hey, you guys got to help me out here. I want to use this, and I only want to use this one because it's what I'm used to, and all this other newer stuff is new things to learn. And they're like, yeah, but we can't even help you with that. It's so old. We don't even have people who can even possibly help you with that. So I was forced into this idea of
Painful.
actually having to relearn a whole new editing system and everything.
Oh, that's painful.
That's kind of my hold up right now, but I'm getting it and I'm getting it down. Things are starting to work out, with a couple of little projects I've done too. So figuring some things out. So hopefully I'll get it down to a nice system like I had with the other one, and I'll get my videos back up and running soon too. How about you, Josh? I know you got so much going on and doing. I mean, you're always putting something out. Every time I see something, I'm seeing a new reel or doing all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I've been trying to post daily, and it's been a challenge. It's sort of a personal challenge I made to myself months ago. And I don't know, I just wing it some days and script it some days. But I've got a lot going on. One thing is I've got 20 or 30 plants in pots, trees I need to find a home for and plant. And I've got a bunch of trees I need to clear, like take down to create more sunlight. That's a real challenge on a wooded lot like mine, where I've just got to clear them out. I'm thinking about doing soil blocks this winter. I don't know. I haven't done that in the past. I'm debating if I want to go down that route. Working on a course for fruit trees in small spaces. So like container growing.
Yes, I need that.
Dwarf trees, different things like that. How to prune to keep them small. So that's been something I've been toying with. But just trying to put out content every day, bring value to people, and just grow my reach and try to get more things that I can offer people that they can use to better themselves.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Really great stuff too. Like I said, you may be new to the gardening content creation stuff, but I think you're just really kicking butt with it and doing some awesome stuff. I mean, I just love what you're doing. And again, same with you, Dezz. I love the, again, kind of coming back to this thing, that passion you have for the living things in your garden. And that's just so amazing. I really appreciate those sort of things and that sort of content that you make as well too, when it comes to doing all of that. And again, like I said, everybody out there, if you haven't yet, definitely get down there and click those links I've got down in the description and go visit these great gardeners and follow along with their great gardening content. And again, thank you guys so much for spending time with us here this Sunday for this fun gardening roundtable. And I'll let you guys out for a minute here as I close out the show. And again, thanks for taking your time to be with us.
Thank you. It was great.
All right. We'll be right back in a moment, everybody. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Oh, I got to remember to hit that back afterwards, but all right, everybody. What a great show. What a great conversation with Gardening with Dezz and the Plant Techie. Again, like I said, be sure to go and subscribe to their channels. Leave them a comment. Let them know you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. And definitely, if you haven't already here for us as well, too, be sure to click the like button, hit that thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel. And hit the bell notification to be notified of our upcoming videos and live streams. And of course, be sure to share with all of your garden friends out there. Let them know about all these great fun gardening conversations that we're having every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And definitely go back and check out some of our other shows as well too. Like I said, yesterday we had on the show with us Marcus Bridgewater from Garden Marcus joined with us to talk all about garden inspiration and his books and everything that he's written and done. We also got to visit again with our good friend Joe Kozlowski from Garden State Gardener. He's been out of the game a little while and is just getting back into it, so we thought it would be fun to have a fun, great conversation with him. And as well too, last Sunday we had a really great, really fun gardening roundtable where we got to have back on the show with us Mark Valencia from Self-Sufficient Me. And as we mentioned just a little bit earlier, one of my favorite gardeners, longtime garden creator on YouTube. And it was just so awesome to have him back. He visited with us earlier in the year, and then we had him back to visit with us on a roundtable with our good friend Nate Murray from over at Garden Like a Viking. Garden Like a Viking is such a great channel. He puts on some really fun live streams as well. In fact, on Saturdays, his live stream runs right up to basically when our live stream starts. So I get to listen to him while I'm getting prepared and ready for the show and everything. So again, you want to go and check that show out. Next week on the show, we're going to have with us from Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company, we're going to have Ryan Schumacher. So if you watch any of the content that Baker Creek puts out, you'll see a lot of Ryan trying and testing out all of these sort of fun different varieties of heirlooms that you can grow right out of the Baker Creek Heirloom Seed catalog. So it's going to be really fun to talk with Ryan this next Saturday on the show. And then next Sunday, now I'm not too sure exactly if this is going to work out right. This is one of those ones where, you know, you're doing a live show or you're trying to plan things ahead of time. You hope that everything works out. But next Sunday is the third Sunday of the month. And on the third Sunday of the month, we do our gardening book club. And this last month's gardening book that we're going to be featuring for this next Sunday's conversation is Mitch McCulloch's The Seed Hunter. And again, Mitch wrote this really great book. It just came out recently, and I met Mitch down at the National Heirloom Exposition, and him and Ryan as well too, and got to have some fun conversations with them. So it'll be kind of great to kind of catch back up with them as well too. And again, I'm not sure exactly again if that's going to work out, and if it doesn't work out for having Mitch on the show next Sunday, me and Mark Boucher Colbert, again, you saw him earlier in our In the Garden segment. He is my co-host for our gardening book club, and we've had some really great book clubs over the months here this year. So basically, if we don't get Mitch on the show, then what we'll do is we'll get together and we'll talk all about all of these different books that we've featured this year so far. We've got Ashley Thomas's How to Become a Gardener, Marta McDowell's All the President's Gardens. I'm telling you, that was such an amazing book. Leave Your Troubles Behind with Karen Hughes. That's really a great book for those of you who are just, you know, looking for ways to, you know, get plants into your life to help deal with some of the different things that we deal with and all of that too. Just a really great book. Cisco Morris, one of my favorite gardeners from when I was a teenager. I remember listening to his radio show in the Pacific Northwest. We had him on and talked about his book, Ooh La La. Christy Wilhelmi's Garden Variety, a great fictional tale of a community garden. And then our first book this year for our book club was Ellen Zacco's Foraging for Wild Foods Without Dying. It was a really great book, really great authors. We had lots of great conversations. So we'll just kind of get together, talk about those. We'll talk about some of the things we'll announce next month's book as well too. And it'll just be kind of a great fun conversation, hopefully this next weekend. So I look forward to seeing all of you joining up with us for this next week's show. And again, like I said, be sure to, before you head out of here, click the like button, click the subscribe button, share with all of your friends. And let's see here. Also, too, I wanted to mention our sponsor, Ivy Organics. You go check them out at ivyorganics.com and get some of their 3-in-1 plant guard that they have. Use our promo code GROW10, GROW10 to save 10% off. So definitely go and support our sponsor as they support us and our show. And again, thank you all so much for being here today. It was so great to see all of you this weekend. I look forward to seeing all of you this next weekend.